In this documentary, we aim to show that humanity did not begin with modern humans, that Homo sapiens emerged as the result of millions of years of evolutionary struggle, adaptation, and cooperation. We will try to convey that modern humans are a living sum carrying the genetic and cultural legacy of extinct human species. Homo sapiens as a term means wise human or knowing human. In common usage, however, when we say human, we refer only to Homo sapiens, the only surviving species of the Homo genus. Homo sapiens has existed for more than 300,000 years, but our story did not begin with us. Long before modern humans, our ancestors ever walked the earth, countless human species emerged, struggled, adapted, or failed to adapt, and eventually vanished. Some were more ape-like than human. Others dominated vast regions of the world millions of years before we appeared. They were not monsters. They were our ancestors. And in a very real sense, they still live within us today. 7 million years ago, during the late Miocene, Africa was a dangerous place. Deadly saber-toothed cats roamed the plains. Massive bears ruled the land, and among them lived our earliest ancestors, small, arboreal creatures who spent most of their lives in the trees. They would have looked very similar to modern chimpanzees. In the trees, they were powerful and dominant. Even a leopard would think twice before attacking a chimpanzee in its own environment. The forest canopy was their safe haven, but on the ground, they were almost completely defenseless. For a long time, life remained relatively stable until the Earth itself began to change. A massive geological shift reshaped the fate of our ancestors. As the Himalayas began to rise, tectonic activity fractured parts of Africa. Mountain ranges formed, blocking moisture from the Indian Ocean. East Africa began to dry. Once lush forests slowly transformed into open savannas and rugged landscapes. Our ancestors could no longer remain in the trees all day. To survive, they had to descend to the ground, at least to search for food and water. It was an extremely dangerous transition. These early hominins were poorly adapted to life on the open plains. Living in large groups became essential, as predators frequently targeted them. We know of at least 4 early hominin species from this period. Though still very chimp-like, they began to show subtle human traits. Smaller jaws, reduced canines, and changes in posture. Life was harsh, and predators often claimed the first humans. Around 4.4 million years ago, human evolution accelerated. This is when the first Australopithecines appeared, one of the most important groups in human evolutionary history. They were the first human ancestors to walk upright. Bipedalism changed everything. Walking on 2 legs made it easier to see over tall grass. Predators could be spotted from a distance. Standing upright also made them appear larger and more intimidating. Even today, humans have been known to scare off bears simply by making themselves look bigger. But perhaps most importantly, walking on 2 legs required far less energy than moving on all 4s. And it freed the hands that could now carry food, carry children, and eventually carry weapons. One of the most famous Australopithecines ever discovered is Lucy. Lucy belonged to the species Australopithecus afarensis. She stood only 110 centimeters tall and weighed around 29 kilograms. Her brain was as small as a chimpanzee's, but her pelvis and leg bones were unmistakably human. Lucy walked upright. She lived 3.2 million years ago. She died young, fully grown by the age of 12. We still do not know exactly how she died, but evidence suggests her remains were scavenged by a carnivore after death. For a long time, scientists believed her species did not use tools, but cut marks found on fossilized bones began to tell a different story. These early humans may not have hunted, but they used sharp stone tools to cut meat and extract nutrient-rich marrow. This was a monumental step. Using a random rock is one thing, but intentionally manufacturing a tool, even a simple stone flake, was revolutionary for its time. Australopithecines eventually branched into multiple lineages. One of these led to Australopithecus africanus, and from there to the genus Homo. Around 2.4 million years ago, a new species emerged, Homo habilis the handyman. Rather than dramatic changes in body structure, this species showed a major shift in brain development. Brain volume increased dramatically to about 640 cubic centimeters, compared to 400 to 500 in earlier hominins. Brains are expensive organs. Even today, the human brain consumes about 20% of our daily energy. But the investment paid off. A larger brain meant better tools, stronger social bonds, and improved decision-making. Still, Homo habilis was small, about 4 feet tall, and likely remained a scavenger rather than a hunter. But it marked the beginning of something new. Then came one of the most important species in human history, Homo erectus. They were taller, stronger, and far more intelligent. The average male stood about 178 centimeters tall and weighed around 68 kilograms. Their brain structures were also more advanced. Their anatomy allowed for efficient long-distance walking and powerful throwing motions. Homo erectus was the first hominin to leave Africa, spreading across Asia and Europe. And most importantly, they mastered fire. Fire meant warmth, protection from predators, cooked food, and perhaps the first true conversations around a campfire. Cooking provided more calories, reduced disease, and may have accelerated brain growth. Homo erectus hunted large animals, meeting the energy demands of their bodies and brains. They produced hand axes, developed simple tools, hardened spears with fire, and may even have built primitive boats to reach distant islands. They were not primitive creatures. They were pioneers. Over hundreds of thousands of years, Homo erectus evolved into new species. In Europe, Homo heidelbergensis emerged, taller, smarter, and capable of advanced hunting. From them came the Neanderthals, short, powerful, cold-adapted, and resilient. Neanderthals had larger brains than ours, but organized differently, optimized for vision and sensory perception. Meanwhile, in Africa, around 350,000 years ago, a new species appeared, Homo sapiens, us. Unlike our relatives, we evolved weaker bodies, but stronger cooperation. Our brains specialized in planning, communication, and social complexity. Around 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens began leaving Africa in massive waves. We encountered Neanderthals. We encountered Denisovans. We encountered other human species. We did not simply replace them. We lived with them. We interbred with them. Today, most people outside Africa carry Neanderthal DNA. Some populations carry Denisovan genes. Genes that allow Tibetans, for example, to survive at extreme altitudes. By 20,000 years ago, all other human species were gone, but they were not erased. They still live within us. The human story is not a simple tale of triumph. It is a story of adaptation, struggle, cooperation, and loss. Many species walked this earth before us. Today, only one remains, and yet we are not alone. We are the sum of every human who lived before us. And our story is not over. There are still many stories to be written, and much legacy yet to be left behind.